Good day. For today, we will be discussing about the different 20th century traditional composers. Let us define contemporary Philippine music. According to national artist Ramon Santos, contemporary music in the Philippines refers to compositions that have adopted ideas and elements from the 20th century art music in the West, as well as the latest trends and musical styles in the entertainment industry. The modern Filipino repertoire consists of musical pieces that have been written in 20th century idioms that have evolved out of such stylistic movements as Impressionism, Expressionism, Neoclassicism, as well as avant-garde and new music. New music are compositions which are improvisational works such as the early compositions of Dr. Ramon Santos, Radiacion, and Cuadracion, Josefino, Chino, Toledo, Samot-Sari, Pintigan, and Terminal Lamentations, and Jonathan Baez, Wala, and Manua. With Spain and then America having colonized the Philippines from the early 1500s to the late 1800s, it was unavoidable that Western compositional techniques found their way into the works of Filipino composers. Yet, even 20th century Filipino composers have managed to retain some traditional elements in their assimilation of Western techniques. In fact, they have become the strongest foundations of what we now know as Philippine music. Francisco Beltran Buencamino Sr. was born on November 5, 1883 in Bulacan. He was the son of a musically inclined couple. His father was Fortunato Buencamino, a church organist and bandmaster. His mother was Luisa Beltran, a noted singer. He studied music composition and harmony at Liceo de Manila. Unfortunately, he was not able to finish. He taught at the Ateneo de Manila and at Centro Escolar de Señoritas, whose Conservatory of Music he founded. He also created the Buencamino Music Academy in 1930, where Nicanor Abelardo was one of his students. He ventured into musical directing and scoring, and composing film music of Sampaguita Pictures, LVN, and Excel Shores. Buencamino's compositions include Harana, Pandango ni Neneng, Color de Sampaguita, Dulces, Las Horas, Mayon, My Soul's Lament, and many more. Francisco Santiago is known as the father of the Kundiman and belongs to the triumvirate of Filipino composers. He finished his music specialization at the American Conservatory of Music in Chicago, where he obtained his doctorate degree in 1924. Santiago's music was romantic in style, incorporating Western forms and techniques with folk materials. He composed several works such as kundiman, symphonies, piano concertos, and other music pieces for the piano, violin, and voice. Among his famous works are Pakiusap, Madaling Araw, Sakali Man, Hibik ng Pilipinas, Ano Kaya ang Kapalaran, and Kundiman, Anak Dalita. This piece was sung before the royal court of Spain upon the request of King Alfonso II. Nicanor Abelardo is one of the triumvirate of Filipino composers, which includes Antonio Molina and Francisco Santiago. He studied music at the Chicago Music College and was influenced by the musical styles of Schoenberg, Hindemith, and Stravinsky. Abelardo developed a style that combined European Romanticism with Chromaticism. His compositions contain hazy tones, dissonance, and unusual chordal compositions found in such works as Cinderella Overture, Panoramas, and a violin sonata. Although a 20th century modern composer in style, he is also considered a composer in the Romantic style. His best-known compositions include Mutya ng Pasig, Nasaan Ka Irog, Cavatina for Violoncello, and Magbalik Ka Hirang. Antonio Molina, the first national artist for music, is considered one of the triumvirate of Filipino composers, which includes Nicanor Abelardo and Francisco Santiago. He began his music career as an orchestral soloist at the Manila Grand Opera House. He served as Dean of the Centro Escolar University Conservatory of Music from 1948 to 1970. He was also a faculty of the University of the Philippines Conservatory, now College of Music. Molina was a product of both the Romantic and Impressionist schools of thought. He was fascinated by the dynamics and harmonies of Debussy, but retained much of the romantic style in his melody. A characteristically impressionist work is his piano work Malikmata, or Transfiguration. The mysteriously exotic chords of this piece gradually lead to a lyrical melody, with the traditional harmonies abruptly returning to the initial mood. Antonino Ramirez Buenaventura was a renowned composer, conductor, and teacher. His father Lucio was the chief musician of the Spanish artillery band in Intramuros and founder of Banda Buenaventura. As a young boy, he had already demonstrated a passion for music while learning the rudiments of music and solfejo and becoming a proficient clarinet player. Buenaventura was actively involved with the various military bands which ultimately earned him his military rank of colonel. He was a music instructor and band conductor of the Philippine Military Academy. Cornejo was the soloist of the Manila Symphony Orchestra, Filipinos Youth Symphony Orchestra, and UP Symphony Orchestra. Later on, he became the musical director of the Sampaguita and Vera Perez movie companies. Since 1978, he held concerts in the United States. He appeared as composer, conductor at the Seattle Opera House and the Seattle Playhouse. He is listed in the International Who's Who in Music. Cornejo was also known for his extemporaneous thematic improvisations based on the letters of people's names. His compositional output includes A la Juventud Filipina, Bailes de Ayer, Caprice on a Folk Song, Cello Sonata, Ibong Adarna, Kandingan, and many more. Felipe Padilla de Leon wrote piano compositions, hymns, marches, art songs, chamber music, symphonic poems, overtures, band music, school songs, orchestral works, operas, kundiman, and zarzuelas. He was known as a nationalist composer who expressed the Philippines' cultural identity through his compositions. Two operas which are considered his masterpiece are the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. These two operas have been staged in the Philippines and abroad. Felipe de Leon received a posthumous award as National Artist for Music in 1997. Lucio San Pedro was born on February 11, 1913 in Angono, Rizal. Since his elementary days, he started composing. He studied the banjo, which inspired him to become a serious musician. He later pursued his music degree at the University of the Philippines and the Juilliard School in New York, USA. Upon returning to the Philippines, he became a professor of theory and composition at the University of the Philippines College of Music. San Pedro is known as a romantic nationalist. He incorporated Philippine folk elements in his compositions with Western forms and harmony. His chords have a rich expressive tonality as represented in his well-loved Sa Ugoy ng Duyan, a lullaby melody sung by his mother. Rosendo Santos Jr. was born on September 3, 1922 in Cavite City. As a UNESCO scholar, Santos was awarded the Philippine Composer of the Century. After receiving the Composer of the Year award in Manila in 1956 and 1957, he joined the faculty of Wilkes University, Pennsylvania in 1968. He performed as timpanist, pianist, and conductor with several orchestral groups. He conducted church choirs in Maryland, New Jersey, Layman, and many more. A prolific composer, he had composed several piano concerti, sonatas, symphonies, symphonic poems, 5 operas in Filipino, numerous band overtures, and more than 200 marches. He had also written 50 masses in Latin and 20 in English. He has more than 1,000 musical compositions in the library of the University of the Philippines. Dr. Alfredo Santos Buenaventura, a composer, conductor, and teacher. A prolific composer, Buenaventura has composed over 50 major works including 5 full-length operas, operettas, dance dramas, cantatas, symphonies, concertos, ballets, overtures, prelude, fugue, and chamber music. His composition and other creative works have transcended territorial, racial, and language barriers as these have been performed abroad by international virtuosos and religious groups. Many of his compositions are based on Filipino heroes, legends, and epics. He used native songs, both tribal and folk, as theme of his music compositions. A number of his compositions are accompanied by Filipino indigenous instruments. Cipriano Ryan Cayabyab is a popular contemporary composer who also has classical compositions to his credit, such as Misa, four poems for soprano and piano, and Te Deum. His compositional style makes much use of syncopation and extended chords and chromatic harmony. Among his numerous compositions are the award-winning Kay Ganda ng Ating Musika, as well as the modern Zarzuela Alikabok, the opera Spoliarium with libretto by Fides Cuyugan Asensio. He obtained his bachelor music degree at the University of the Philippines College of Music, after which he became a faculty member for composition at the same university. He also served as the executive and artistic director of the San Miguel Foundation for the Performing Arts, which oversaw the operations and programming of the San Miguel Philharmonic Orchestra and the San Miguel Master Chorale. At present, he continues to be sought after professor, musical director, composer, arranger, and conductor in the Philippine concert and recording scenes. With the European and American influences brought by our colonizers, it was inevitable that the musical styles of 20th century Western composers found their way into Philippine compositions. That would be all for today. I hope you learned from this lesson.